Hello everybody, John from Movie Burners here, and today I am going to be discussing another one of my personal favourite films of 2017. It's the historical drama Dunkirk. Now this was based on arguably one of the most significant moments in World War II for the Allied forces. It was a crushing defeat, and it's basically based around Operation Dynamo, which took place between the 26th of May and 4th of June in 1940. Where essentially over 300,000 soldiers of the British Expeditionary Force were ferried across the channel from the coastal town of Dunkirk to the relative safety of British Isles. Now, they were completely encircled by German forces, and there really was a week-long campaign of terror and almost continuous bombing runs from the dreaded Luftwaffe, which ultimately left 68,000 of that force dead, and it completely obliterated the once formidable French First Army as well, who heroically held off the Germans, might add. That is really the setting which inspired Christopher Nolan for his latest feature film. He's ditched the familiar sci-fi genre which he normally operates in exchange for a historical drama. And this film has the latter in abundance. It is drama driven. It's a 12A or a PG-13 in the States, and as such it doesn't have the intense gore that we've really grown accustomed to seeing in the war genre over the last couple of decades or so. And really, given who the director is, it should be apparent to most viewers that Dunkirk doesn't need any of that gore to really paint an effective picture of what happened on that particular stretch of beach. It's a decidedly more visceral emotion that Nolan really opts for instead, using some cool and interesting techniques, notably the brilliant Hans Zimmer score, to create a real sense of claustrophobic tension that seems to build to an unbearable crescendo at points as the plot progresses. It's got a tightly woven, multifaceted, multi-perspective plot, focusing on 3 different key parts of the story, each complete with their own group of characters that just seems to work beautifully. On the ground, the main focus is on Tommy, a young British private played by Fionn Whitehead, and he is in the film's opening scenes where he escapes a German ambush, diving over the French perimeter to the false safety of the beach. The sea perspective focuses on a mariner by the name of Dawson, played by Rylance, and his 2 sons, and also later on Cillian Murphy's shivering soldier character. And then finally in the air we have got Farrier, played by Tom Hardy, and Collins, played by Jack Lowden, who are essentially 2 RAF Spitfire pilots doing their best whilst vastly outgunned. Now, what's remarkable about these differing perspectives is the manner in which Nolan works with them throughout the film. Tommy's portion plays out over a week, Dawson's is over a day, and the RAF pilots are played out over an hour. And they all interject in at different points of the film, each view being told concurrently on the screen, whilst in the actual story they're obviously occurring at completely different times. And without giving too much away, it comes together very intelligently, culminating in the final day on the 4th of June. Now, it's quite a short affair for a Nolan film. It's actually his shortest feature to date, and it's the first to really drop under the 2-hour mark. But just like the story elements though, I think he gets the duration pretty much spot on here. I couldn't envisage Dunkirk being any longer really. There's so much dread, death, suffering and hopelessness throughout that it really needed to be contained to a shorter running time. And that's actually one of the biggest positives I took from this film, the fact that there wasn't an attempt made to really lighten the tone throughout. It just told the story, which isn't for the faint of hearted. There's multiple ships sunken with U-boats or German bombers, and a horrendous oil slick fire scene. There's countless air raids, and absolutely nothing the Allied forces can do to really counteract it at any point. There's no heroes to save the day here, apart from the fleet of civilian vessels which pop up later in the film. Which brings me on to my next point. Nicely, there's no real character development in Dunkirk, and this is entirely deliberate on Nolan's part. It's not a story of individuals, it's really about human spirit and overwhelming adversity, and the realisation that sometimes surviving to fight another day is every bit as important as winning a strategic victory. That's not to say there isn't any great individual performances, because Fionn Whitehead stole the show for me whilst barely uttering a word. He really managed to convey a multitude of different emotions in this mutinous. Mark Rylance was also fantastic, and I particularly enjoyed Tom Hardy, Cillian Murphy and Loden's performances. Kenneth Branagh was also tremendous, and even Harry Styles, who I wasn't expecting much from, to be honest, did surprisingly well as Private Alex, and he got a lot more screen time than I anticipated before viewing this film. Now, I can't review this film and not discuss the visuals. Hoyt van Hoytema teamed up again with Nolan after the two worked together on Interstellar, which was another stunning cinematic experience in terms of visuals. And this film is a visual masterpiece. Everything about it is utterly brilliant for me. There's a real attention to detail in here which I enjoyed. The Spitfires are there in all their glory, the actors are actually inside them, and the aerial dogfights were a real high point in this film, taking place over the choppy, buoy greyish sea below. The beach scenes were harrowingly beautiful and realistic, but there was two particular shots that really stood out in my mind in this film, however. Firstly, the shot of Dawson's small civilian boat passing the much larger British destroyer. The visual juxtaposition of these two perfectly illustrated the perilous nature of their predicament, whilst capturing the spirit of the Dunkirk evacuation in one magnificent shot. Secondly was the lonely wide shot at the end of the film, which involved Farrier's Spitfire gliding low and majestically along the beach. Likewise, the score also deserves a mention. I'm almost running out of adjectives at this moment to describe the genius that is Hans Zimmer. The collaborative efforts of both him and Nolan together make magic happen. This score is just eerie at points and really feeds into that claustrophobic feeling. It builds to a never-ending crescendo of seemingly endless higher notes, and there appears to be the sound of an actual clock ticking away in the background, all of which adds to the growing sense of haste to really get off the beach and get these British soldiers home, and it fits the film perfectly. Now, I've rambled on a fair bit here, I know, but Dunkirk was my real introduction into World War II, a subject which I am very interested in and passionate about and have been for the vast majority of my life. But needless to say, this is a fantastic film, it really is, and I would have absolutely no hesitation in recommending it whatsoever. It's a historical event which has often been overlooked by many non-war buffs, and it's certainly been overlooked in cinematic terms too, and I'm delighted it's been given a modern release. Now, Operation Dynamo wasn't the happiest or most successful time for the Allied forces in World War II, but it perfectly encapsulated the British spirit, which would prove to be so decisive in helping to turn the tides of World War II, and Nolan captured that in this film and more. I'll be rating this film 4.5 out of 5 because it is one of my favourite films of 2017 and one of my favourite war films, period now. Remember guys, if you're enjoying the content we're putting out, then be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube and iTunes, and give us a little follow on Facebook at Movie Burner Entertainment and on Twitter at Movie Burners. You can also catch up with all the latest reviews we're putting out at the Movie Burner blog on movieburnerentertainment.org. Until the next time, goodbye.